Welcome back, everyone. You are here at We Were on a Break series podcast. I'm your host, Brent Sargeant. I'm excited because we haven't done a podcast recently with other guests. So I thought instead of bringing one guest, why not bring two guests? And we have here Tom and Shelley from Mode app, which is one of the leading cryptocurrency apps in the UK and abroad. And I'll let them introduce yourself, and then we're going to really jump into a fun topic that's really hot off the press. Tom, why don't you go first and introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Tom. Hi, Stephen. I'm fairly new to the crypto space. I've been interning at Mode for a couple of months now. Interning with Shelley here in compliance mainly.
And hi, I'm Shelley. I'm Group Head of Compliance for Mode Global Holdings. And we're really pumped to be here with you, Stephen. Thank you for the opportunity, because we wanted to talk about advertising in the crypto sphere, what's happened in the last few weeks, and why that's having an enormous impact, not just in the UK, but globally.
And it's interesting, Shelley, because we met through actually ACAMS. We were both on deck to do a webinar. And I remember the email, you start off the email, hey peeps. And that's always how I respond to people in the industry. And I'm like, okay, we're like lost from birth. Like that's my kind of people that can respond to emails like that. So Tom, we're going to get right into it. We saw some rulings coming out of the ASA when it comes to cryptocurrency and advertising. Why don't you run through a couple of those rulings and kind of give us the basis behind them, because we know there's really no rules, but there's ruling. So kind of walk us through what we're seeing here coming out of the UK.
Definitely, yeah, very well put there with rules. So it all started 2 weeks before Christmas. So the ASA decided to deliver an early Christmas present to the crypto community, or maybe more of a Scrooge, depending how you view it. But it all started with a Papa John's advert. It was a financial promotion in which they offered £10 Bitcoin when you spent £30 on pizza. So, and this was done through an external wallet provider. And while on the surface, it doesn't sound anything, and doesn't need to be any risks with it associated with it, because it's literally £10 free Bitcoin, which is all it was. But the ASA saw this as firstly trivializing investments, because essentially the target audience associated with pizza buyers is families. So they had a real problem with this. But the problem with this is that they were trivializing investments. But there wasn't an investment in it. It was essentially a free £10 Bitcoin.
It was an airdrop, wasn't it?
Precisely,
it was like free Bitcoin. And yeah, they just said, no, this is like really dangerous investment territory.
Definitely. They didn't want this anywhere near Papa John's target audience. And this really started a chain of ASA rulings against any crypto advert. So there were several Coinbase adverts posted on a variety of social media. So there was Facebook, Twitter, and they had a real problem with the Facebook ones, mainly because in the risk warning, they didn't refer to capital gains tax.
And let me set the scene for this, right? If you buy anything that may increase in value, you may be I love tax. You may be subject to capital gains tax. But when you walk into a sneaker shop and you buy your limited edition sneakers, no one is saying to you, don't buy the sneakers, because if they increase in value, we're worried you won't know about capital gains tax, and therefore we can't sell you the sneakers. And for no other financial product is it an issue that you must discuss capital gains tax, because that's really Her Majesty's Treasury's job to make sure people are tax compliant, asking crypto organizations to spread the message about the potential implications if you exceed your annual allowance for capital gains tax. It's so far removed from the 3 million people who hold crypto in the UK. The average wallet size is £700. Capital gains tax only kicks in after thousands of pounds worth of gains.
I'm curious, so I'm going to interrupt you here. is this, Tom, you brought this up like Christmas. Crypto, Bitcoin has been around for over a decade. Is this the first time ASA has kind of taken a stance? Has no other cryptocurrency company advertised in the last 10 years? Or what kind of sparked this string of rulings and warnings?
Definitely, yeah. There was definitely crypto adverts before this. I mean, you couldn't get on a train and without seeing a crypto advert on TfL. So definitely before that they were relevant. And I think before the ASA had made one ruling against a crypto firm, and that was for a poor risk comment after the advert. But I think, yeah, because they all happened over the space of 1 week. I think there was over a dozen of these adverts that were struck down, all starting with the Papa John's advert, and it did follow into the new year as well. And just in the short space of time that these happened, and the number of them, it does seem as though something's changed in the ASA. And I think that could be down to influencers. We've seen people in general, influencers, no, we've seen a lot of influencers promoting coins recently that have been associated with fraudulent activity. And I think the Kim Kardashian and Floyd Mayweather is a good example of that proper pump and dump scenario with Ethereum Max. And we've seen in Spain that their central bank have taken an approach of getting influencers to contact them before publishing. But I think this really scared the ASA because of the pressure that they're putting on investors to invest and the FOMO. And so I think the ASA have taken a more blanket approach.
And it makes sense, right? The price goes up. We're going from 30,000 to 60 back down to 35,000. No one's going to dispute the ASA's kind of overarching theme that they're trying to protect their consumers and make sure that they're highly aware of the volatility and the fact that all the influencers you're saying is pretty much saying everything's going up. You can't go wrong. So we kind of get that aspect of it. But Shelley, most of these organizations, if not all of them that are doing any kind of advertisements, are regulated by the FCA or other jurisdictional authorities.
No, it's not true. So this is why I personally believe, it's my opinions only, I believe that the FCA saw customer harm happening. The FCA doesn't have a mandate to regulate financial promotions that are related to crypto. And so had I have been the FCA in that position, I would have approached the only body, it's a voluntary body, it doesn't have statutory legal standing, it can't fine anyone, but everyone takes the ASA super seriously, especially the advertising platforms. So I can imagine a scenario, and here again, it's just my imagination at play, where the FCA may have sought support from the ASA to say, we don't have jurisdiction, but we can see the harm, help us out. These are some adverts, we've received complaints or not received complaints, we've just ridden on the tube with everyone else. We can see what's out there, and it feels like it's not the clear, fair, misleading sort of financial promotion that we would encourage for financial products. So I want to go back to Kim, because she's not my girl, but Kim Kardashian did what any influencer in her position would have done, which was she started the promotion by saying, this is not financial advice. So there's a hint in there, but she said it in a conversational tone. And then she didn't really relate the sort of risks. And I believe she didn't know enough about the business to be an ambassador to that business. And therefore, she was selling a dream that really had no substance to it. So she did try and provide a disclaimer, but it was given in such a way as to be ineffective. And so,
and to be quite honest, Shelley, that disclaimer is white noise. Like, this is not financial advice when you're an influencer impacting millions of people. Is almost like saying, like you can dress up like Ronald McDonald and say you don't sell burgers, but people are going to relate. They're going to relate the Big Mac to you. And at the end of the day, if you said, hey, this hamburger is great, people are going to kind of relate that. So I definitely get it there. So you're basically saying the ASA is similar to how the Financial Action Task Force is for AML. Technically, legally, they have no way of enforcing any of their guidance. But if you're going to play in their space, which is the whole financial ecosystem, and in this case is the whole advertising throughout the UK, you're going to have to follow their rules otherwise you're playing outside of their sandbox, which is not going to get much traction at all.
You hit the nail on the head. So you've got to follow their rules. There have been no rules. There are still no rules. So the FCA, which is the Financial Conduct Authority, who are responsible for registration of crypto asset businesses, don't have a mandate yet to regulate the financial promotions related to crypto assets. So this is why, in a vacuum, no one can point a finger at any of these companies who've been named and so-called shamed, or even Kim Kardashian, because if you don't set down any rules, don't ask people to keep to them.
Tom, I'm going to interrupt you. Tom, I saw some of these advertisements that got penalized. Like, they're comparing certain cryptocurrency to digital gold and save your cash here. I got to side with the ASA here. It was a little bit suspect the way they were promoting these products. Can you talk about some of these rulings and what's the big issue with cryptocurrency companies following these rules/non-rules if they really were sounding fairly harmful to potential customers?
Yeah, so the ASA are doing their job, definitely, and there have been some adverts that, for example, been promoting buying crypto on credit, which I completely understand the ASA's viewpoint on. And there was an advert on Twitter by Coinbert, which advertised make buying crypto super easy and secure on their platform. And I think whilst this isn't necessarily not true, the ASA are definitely in their right to protect consumers on this side. But it's more the reasoning behind the ASA's rulings, which is causing so much confusion and, I guess, frustration in the crypto community, especially in compliance, because there appears to be inconsistencies, and the way that they're addressing these inconsistencies isn't helpful to companies that are trying to create adverts. So yeah, for example, with that one, they have generic responses. So for Coinbert, they would just say it's trivializing investments and putting consumers at harm, but they wouldn't provide any actual personal feedback necessarily.
Tom, are you saying a regulator is very vague in their guidance towards something that they're ruling? Tom, you shut your mouth. That has never happened in the history of regulators. That really is it. I think you hit the nail on the head there. Regulators need to provide guidance. The whole issue with the regulations usually, and even some of the guidance, is that they never say clear black or white, this is what you can do, this is what you can do. They only really comment about what you can't do, which makes what you can do very limited in scope. But Shelley, you come from the traditional side of this. Isn't this what all financial institutions have to deal with? Is there some reason why the cryptocurrency businesses feel like this is too harsh for them versus a traditional bank or a wealth management company?
Yeah, it feels like we're being held to a higher standard. So I can talk about our experiences here at Mode. We are a registered crypto asset firm with the FCA. We're listed on the London Stock Exchange. We take regulation so seriously. it's at the heart of our business, because for us, in a world of Wild West, for us, it's a differentiator. Might not make us the sexiest, might not make us the most interesting, but it does make us the one you can go back and check on when no one else is checkable. So we've always complied with the financial promotion rules, and we voluntarily did that. And the financial promotion rules explain that anything you say must be clear, fair, and not misleading. And part of that means that every headline you give to a benefit, you give the same headline to the risks associated with whatever it is. We can't even call it an investment because we don't have an investment license, and it falls outside the regulatory perimeter for investments. So we're left to do a dance around the edges. And that's really where the problem has arisen, because had there been guidance from the regulator, however nebulous, however outcomes oriented, we wouldn't be in this situation today. And I think that the statements by the FCA about how they view financial promotions in future are really telling, because they've talked about the regulatory perimeter going to cover some coins. And it's already a thing that NFTs are not in that perimeter. So, okay, you just whacked a mole and 3 more moles popped up right over here. So,
and doesn't that give like too much discretion to them? Because now they're going to give you basically in social media, they're going to give you the blue check mark that says this is verified or approved. Now, how quickly? They can't really analyze all the coins at the same time. So they're going to probably pick a small batch. Isn't that giving an unfair advantage to that small batch of coins that may be listed on certain exchanges or certain crypto companies and not? What's your take on their specific designation that what companies are allowed to do this versus what companies are not yet allowed to do this?
My specific view on it is that without engagement from the industry, the impact on civil liberties, the impact on people being able to choose where they place their hard-earned money it's huge. You cannot disenfranchise 95% of the population from controlling their own financial well-being because you're worried that 2% of that population might not be very good at it, because those are the people who bought the $1,000 trainers. You know, it's like that there becomes this imbalance between protection of consumer interests and what's really interesting is the competition element, because the FCA is one of the only regulators in the world that one of their objectives is to engender competition in financial markets. Most regulators don't have that. They're there to keep you safe. It's not about competition. So we really face a more sophisticated environment for delivering these rules, but we haven't seen the industry engagement yet that I would expect to see from a regulator who's expecting to get this right first time.
What's the impact? You talked a lot about impact. Let's face it, the UK is one of the biggest markets, whether it's traditional or cryptocurrency. What's the impact to other regulators, other countries that actually look to the UK, look to the FCA and the ASA for guidance? Are you going to start to see other jurisdictions start to impose some of these rulings / non-rulings within their own jurisdictions?
Yeah, so I'm going to answer that in 2 parts, because what these rulings that are going to turn into rules when the FCA decides to publish those, please talk to me before they publish those. What these rulings are likely to mean is that all customers for crypto will be treated as potentially vulnerable customers, and that places a responsibility upon the crypto asset firms to ensure suitability, appropriateness, and affordability of the activity of the retail consumer they're engaging with. So we believe we're going to either see a flight to high net worth or sophisticated investor products and services, because you don't have the same protections for those sorts of services because it's a different class of individuals. And that would be a shame, because the people who were the early adopters in crypto, they weren't your high net worth dudes. So I'd be really sad to see that go. And I'd rather see some thresholds put in place, like robo-advice saying, you must be crazy, but it is a matter for you. I want to see that sort of decision-making in the hands of consumers and not in the hands of the regulators. Why is this important for every other regulator around the world? We've touched on the FCA having competition as one of their objectives as a regulator. The FCA also has 47 countries with memorandums of understanding and cooperation agreements. And the smaller of those countries will look to the FCA, see what they do, copy paste, amend it a little bit or translate to whatever the local language is, and say, why should we go reinvent the wheel from scratch when we have a perfect blueprint? Because what the FCA does, my hand on heart, I really like how the FCA regulate most stuff. And they are a shining beacon to regulators who have less resource. They are not at the heart of the financial capital of the world, plus New York. Okay, so why it matters is that when you need access to the UK, that's generally done on the basis of equivalence, that your home regulator says, well, we have different rules to the UK, but the UK regulators already said that what we have is roughly equivalent. And between us, we have an acceptance that says that what's good for them is good for us, and we trust them, and there's integrity in the rules and the way that those are supervised. So there are these 47 markets who use UK equivalence to ensure the smooth, frictionless access to the UK. And the biggest player of all, like the New York markets, right? Between London and New York, you have the biggest financial markets in any universe so far.
Tom, I'm gonna go to you, Tom, quickly. Did you see any loopholes in some of these rulings? Did you see any ways that maybe cryptocurrency companies could get creative, right? We see with pharmaceuticals, they promote the drug. They pretty much say the side effects are death from the drug, but they're still okay with promoting it and doing a whole commercial on it. Did you see any loopholes, or is companies gonna have to get more creative when they do their advertising and maybe promote the downfalls as a way to get people in? Kind of like we remember the Viagra commercials where they said, warning, you may get an erection for 8 hours or 2 days. It was a warning, but it was also a promotional tactic to get more people to buy the product. What do you think?
Yeah, so I actually disagree with that, because currently, based off these rulings, it seems that the ASA have taken a real blanket approach to, I think they see the word crypto and shout fire, essentially, and run as far away from it as possible. But we're seeing the FCA come in now, and they're looking to legislate crypto under financial promotions. So with that, I definitely see an opportunity for cryptocurrency firms to expand their promotions. But at the same time, it's been suggested that the FCA getting involved with these ASA rulings and financial promotions could be the end of the Wild West days of crypto. But with that comes potentially limiting crypto firms' use of sign-up offers and that sort of thing to get new users in. So I think if anything is going to limit cryptocurrency firms' promotions for now, anyway.
So yeah, but I do think Stephen has a point that where you have a thorough understanding of the rules, which no one has because there are no rules right now, we crave certainty. But once there is that understanding, too right, you're going to see creativity. But there are concerns, again, that crypto is held to a higher standard, that the airdrops that are really helpful, really let people know that you're serious. You have to go through KYC and you have to do stuff you want to be rewarded for it rather than hit a blank wall of nothing. And that may be one of the items that's taken out of the ammunition for advertising crypto. And that would be unfair. And the reason it would be unfair is you can do spread betting and get a free bet. You can invest in mini bonds and get a share. You can sign up for a life insurance policy and get a free pen. So if you're going to say, I'm no giving away for free, there is no free, make it for everyone. Don't disaggregate crypto from all the other financial products that are out there who've all had their day. They've all had their ups and downs. It's consumers are smarter than we give them credit for.
I love that. And I'm wondering, just when you were talking about that, Shelley, I was thinking, like, is this traditional advertising even worth it for a lot of the cryptocurrency companies? I know in the UK, the tube, the train system is huge, right? Millions of eyeballs on a daily basis. But is it time for maybe crypto companies, similar to, I think, Modap, with podcasts, with Anthony Pompilano, there's other ways now to reach maybe even your target market. Should we step away from some of the traditional ways that might be very expensive and now heavily regulated and go to more of a content strategy where you're maybe spending more time educating the industry while providing your services at the same time?
I agree with you, but it's a multi-channel strategy.
Right.
So to bring someone into our ecosystem, that's what takes the billboards. Once they're in, we take it as a really serious obligation to educate our customers about the risks and the benefits that go along with Bitcoin and what they can do, who they can follow, what sort of strategies are proven or unproven and by whom. And most importantly, we offer some ways of getting your toes dipped in the water without it meaning that you're going to lose your home if things go south.
I love it. Tom, do you have any closing statements? You've been knee deep in rulings. You sent me a ton of great articles. Is there any overarching theme that you can take away from this? Do you see any optimism in the future, or do you see like regulations coming in to make a clean sweep for 2022?
I'm definitely optimistic because things can only get better from these decisions made by the ASA. But the FCA's crossover into financial promotions is definitely positive for the future. And I think with that, it's introducing more regulation, which can only increase in the future. So definitely, yeah.
Before we go to Shelley, Tom, do you expect there to be a date? Like, do you see maybe in the next 6 months, do you see them putting out something just to give some feedback as to how companies should operate in the near future?
Yes, I do. I expect something potentially in March, but could be pushed back to June. The regulatory wheels don't move fast. And therein lies a huge problem for us, because whilst the regulator is just catching up on crypto coins, they've already excluded NFTs and don't recognize that those are potentially a similar store of value, going to have to be subject to the same sort of regulation. So I already feel like we're behind the curve before the curve even started. And I feel that that's going to be the way that regulation engages in this space for the next decade. We're moving at the speed of lightning, and regulators just don't do that. They want to work on evidence. They want to work on facts. They want to work on history. We have none of that. It's happening right now. It's real-time progress, and regulation doesn't match that cadence yet.
And we're heading into what seems like maybe a crypto winter. Definitely the NFT scene is about to go to is going to get hit pretty hard. Right now, everyone's paying with a lot of leveraged money, not a lot of education. Many people are not taking your advice of doing your own research, darling. And we're going to see the first people that people call when things go bad. They're not going to blame themselves. They're coming to the ASA, they're coming to the FCA and say, well, why didn't you warn me? Why didn't you make these companies warn me of what I'm getting myself into? Shelley, to you, final thoughts before we end this powerful conversation. Is there maybe one final thought, and maybe what can organizations like MODAP and yourselves do to collaborate to try and maybe send some joint feedback to the regulators explaining your side?
So I like to adopt a theory and a practice which has been in place for hundreds of years in insurance, which is a duty of utmost good faith. And it is a duty that is both upon the insured and the insurer. And what it means is it's not buyer beware. It means that the certainty in the agreement between the buyer and the seller is explicit, it's upfront, it's no holds barred. And I would like to see that for crypto, so that if a crypto exchange is going to be promoting a certain product or service, that they are bound by a duty of utmost good faith to ensure all the benefits and all the risks are explicitly disclosed. For me, that feels like the only practicable way forward, without the regulator getting so lost inside their own belly button in trying to design something that's a one size fits all, because that's never going to happen across such a diversified industry.
I love it. Tom, Shelley, thank you so much for taking the time to really share your candid thoughts about the industry as it's going towards advertising. Keep us up to date with the rulings. We'll check back with you when the regulations, even before they drop or when they drop, and then we can compare some of our notes from this podcast to see how close or far off we were with our optimism.
Okay, looking forward to that.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.